What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 98 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast here on YouTube. My name is Dave Knittel, here with my two brothers, Christian and Matt, to discuss stories from around the soccer world. We are also joined by John Collins from the Game of Football podcast. John, hello.
How do? Afternoon and good morning.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon to you over in the UK. And Matt, hello.
Hello.
There's Matt, looking angelic as always. And Christian, say hello.
Hello. This is me looking dark as always.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Christian's in the basement. Matt looks like he's in heaven, and John just looks normal. So yeah, that's what's going on here. So if you're watching live on YouTube, hello, welcome, thanks for joining us here. I have the chat feature up here in the background. Feel free to say hello, chime in on any topics we're talking about as we go along here. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, I think we're ready to get things going. Christian has his trivia question. We're all sorted on our topics, and so we're gonna jump right into things here. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 98 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. My name is Dave Knittel, and I am here with my two brothers, Christian and Matt, to discuss stories from around the soccer world. We are also joined by John Collins from the Game of Football podcast. John, hello. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Afternoon from the United Kingdom.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on. Can you tell us a little bit about the Game of Football podcast?
The podcast has been running for just over a year now, and it's made up entirely of amateur footballers who play at the very bottom of the football pyramid here in London. And we give our thoughts each week on all of the things that catch our eye in world football.
Yeah, so you definitely want to go check it out. We have it linked in the podcast show notes and video description for anyone watching live on YouTube. We have the Twitter link as well as the SoundCloud. John, if you have any other links, feel free to send them to me and I'll throw them in there as well. Matt, hello. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks for asking. I drank a little bit yesterday. I'm trying to battle back from that, but other than that, I'm feeling great. How about you?
All right, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking. Christian, hello. How are you doing?
Dave, every day's a battle, and yesterday wasn't a win, but in the war of life, I feel like I'm still on top. So we're good. We're
very
good.
Poetic. Look at you. That is very poetic. Well, that is fantastic, guys. With all of that being said, let's kick it over to Christian for his trivia question this week.
Well, hello. Welcome to the first segment of Christian's Corner, which is just a little tiny piece. And then we got the big one, and then we got the answer at the end, which is another little tiny piece. So, the trivia question this week is, in Premier League history, so 92 to present day in England, top division, just let me clarify all those things.
Okay.
What team has the least points ever?
Okay. So we will think on that, listeners. So you mean collectively, right?
Collective.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. So we'll think on that, listeners. You'll think. We'll give our guesses at the end, and then Christian will reveal the answer in a glorious ceremony. Matt, I'm going to kick it over to you for your segment here.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Welcome, everyone, to Matt's time here on this podcast. So this week we got one topic that we'll talk about for a little bit. Manchester City and PSG. Some details have been leaked with those football leaks that I think Der Spiegel posted. And it basically says that they injected a couple $1 billion illegally into their club over the last couple years. And I think for City, I couldn't tell if it was both combined or just Man City, but $2.3 billion. And it shows that there was some bribery going on with Platini and Infantino. I'll start with Dave. Is there anything that surprises you about this, or was this basically already known?
I think the only thing that's surprising is just the specifics of everything. I think we all kind of knew stuff was happening, but now to have specific numbers, to have specific emails, specific meetings, and all of that sort of corroborate everything that's been reported, that was the only thing that's it's not even eye-opening, but that was slightly surprising to me.
All right, John, go over to you.
I suppose not surprising. Financial fair play right from the start just didn't really... It's one of those things that sounds like a good headline idea, but even when you look a second later, there were so many holes in it, and it's not really a surprise that kind of clubs with the power of PSG and City found a way to get around what would have held them back.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Christian, what about you? You're on mute.
Christian, you're on mute.
True. That is a good point. That is a good point you make about being on mute. So what I said was Man City and PSG and teams of that size are always going to have legal teams looking through every single piece of the law, trying to figure out ways around it and to suit the best needs of their club. So it's not a surprise in any way, but you'd think financial fair play would be worked on further then to try and make it so that it actually is helping the smaller teams, which is its end goal. But I mean, it's just allowing these massive teams to just continue to be the best in the world. It doesn't really seem like anything's going to change, and I don't really expect it to.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that like surprised me about this was that it hasn't changed between after Blatter was fired and the whole like FIFA scandal, and then now that we have new people in charge, nothing has changed still, and there's still bribery going on. I'd say like that is the biggest thing that like kind of threw me off. Do you guys have any comments about that?
Isn't it a UEFA rule, not a FIFA rule?
Yes.
I think it is. Yeah, UEFA rule.
Yeah.
Didn't think about that.
Yeah, but it's almost like it's systemic and not just tied to Blatter, But so for me, I guess the one thing that I was surprised at is it doesn't surprise me that PSG and Man City and all these teams were trying to get around the regulations. It seems to be that they were almost working with UEFA and Gianni Infantino to do this. And, I know people were saying that they're not even sure if FFP is legal and can be challenged. And so I think that's the other piece in all of this. So it was slightly surprising to me that it seems like the teams aren't just working to get around it. They're working with kind of the leaders that are supposed to be enforcing this. So that was slightly surprising to me.
I think that's come, though, from the fact that financial fair play, I don't think, is to protect little clubs. It's to sort of protect the big clubs from any interlopers coming in. And it's almost though PSG and City, interlopers into the elite of European football, just didn't get through the door in time. And this is UEFA sort of finding a way to ratchet the door back up so they can slide on into the elite group and shut it behind them so that none of the other smaller teams who might get themselves a billionaire from somewhere can crash their party and spoil their fun. So I think it was probably just a little premature for financial fair play and the clamour of selling it as a great thing for everybody, that they accidentally left out to political powerhouses who weren't quite yet football powerhouses.
That's a fantastic point.
Yeah. So going on from like here, like, and now like, the details about what they were doing have kind of leaked. Where do you go from here? Like, is financial fair play going to be like continue, or do you guys see it ending, something else? Like, because the way money's being injected in in soccer, football now, it is so that the little teams can't compete. Like, do you guys think what's the next step from here to make it so that it's not just the big teams pulling away? Dave, I'll go to you.
I'm not really sure. I mean, you hear about like the Leicester story where the owner bought the club and really sort of committed to building out the infrastructure, building out the youth academy, scouting. And then as they rose up, then he started to inject more. I know that's over a longer time horizon, but stories more like that might be what they try to promote. Now, like John was saying before, I mean, it's not in the best interest of Manchester City, Liverpool, and the big teams in England to have clubs like that. And so there's going to be this push-pull, and I don't know if there is going to be a solution that works for everybody, but in the, good for the game of soccer, if they still want to attract like billionaire owners and still build things out, I think any way you can do that to encourage investing infrastructure to build the teams into more stable kind of clubs and, grow kind of the right way, I think would be good.
Yeah. John, any idea?
I think there's not necessarily an issue with allowing teams to find themselves a sugar daddy. The problem is if there's no protection for professional clubs when that's lacking, so they can just be at the mercy of a poor businessman or inept owners. There's plenty of clubs in England at the moment, kind of the likes of Coventry and Charlton and Blackpool, who are desperately struggling under poor owners. I'd much rather see laws to prevent owners taking money out of clubs than trying to stop people putting money in. I think the game in England, for example, would be much better if the likes of Villa and Leeds and Forest, big provincial clubs, were back up. I'd worry more about the clubs who are getting hurt by money taken out, not about people coming in.
Oh, fair enough. Christian, do you have any idea?
I honestly don't know. All I could think of was Dave talking like a true Union supporter. It's really annoying. But I just want teams to be able to spend to get better if they're bought out. Like, just let it happen. Like, if the big teams are going to do it and then other owners just going to come in and do it, like, it's going to happen to everyone eventually, it seems like.
But what I was talking about is kind of what John was saying, where if an owner is investing the right way into the infrastructure, into all of these other things, even if he's a poor businessman with buying players or on the other front, you're still setting up the club to not be just completely chaotic if he decides to pull the plug, similar to what happened with like Sunderland or something like that, you know? Mm. So that's more what I was trying to get at, Christian. I know we go back and forth about this with the Union and not committing to the first team, but for me, it's really important to build that infrastructure, to lay the foundation, and then you can grow from there.
But you have to find the balance.
Yes.
I think that's the issue.
Yes. But we are starting from ground zero in I know we're morphing this conversation. All right, fine. Yeah. Whatever. We'll talk about this some other time.
All right. Is there anything else you guys want to add about this?
Nope.
I'm good. Thanks.
No, not for me.
Well, I think that's going to conclude Matt's time here on this podcast. Listen to a little bit of music, and we'll be right back.
All right. Good stuff, guys. I'm just going to let it go. You can't.
You can.
No. Yeah, but then. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Quick plug here for one of our partners. Bear with me here. What's going on? Wait, hold up. Are we doing Christian?
Did you say what's going on?
I don't know what I said, to be perfectly honest.
You definitely said what's going on.
Okay. We're cutting this anyways. It doesn't matter. What?
Oh, it's going to be on YouTube.
Do you want to be? It is going to be on YouTube. Hello, viewer. Say hello. Thank you for joining us here. Christian, do you want to be involved in the stadium scene plug?
I'll try.
Hey, Matt?
No, you guys got it.
All right. You're going to have to get involved in these in the future, just so you know. What's up, everyone? Dave breaking in here with a partner plug. StadiumScene.tv, you know them. They're a website you want to check out if you're going to a stadium in the U.S. or Canada. They have reviews and recommendations on where to go before you go to the match, bars and restaurants to check out, where to park, how to get to the stadiums. They also have user reviews on things to check out. So if you go to a stadium, make sure to leave a review. Christian, in addition to that, what else do they do?
Man, you always take the good one. I already know that part.
Okay, they partner with content creators like us. I thought this would be easier for you to do.
I just completely forget that piece.
Okay. They partner with content creators like us at Bros Talking Soccer to promote all different kinds of sports content. They have podcasts, YouTube videos, blog posts, and more across all different kinds of sports, not just soccer, but our stuff's on there. So go check them out, support us, and support them. Again, it's stadiumscene.tv. Okay, that went well.
Yeah. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I guess that's my fault. I should have checked with you what you were comfortable saying. So my bad. So you like the bars and recommendations piece?
Well, now that happened, I'll be able to do the next one.
Okay.
I wasn't ready for that. Because last time I did the bars and recommendations, and then I stopped listening when you start talking again.
All right. Whenever you're ready to welcome people back.
It was me. It was my time.
It's Christian's Corner, yes.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that musical interlude. And we're going to kick off Christian's Corner here with a little bit of some weird stuff players have been doing around the world. So Rafinha of Barcelona, right? No.
Bayern.
No, he's at Bayern. Yeah, the Bayern one. Sorry, there's two of them. I did the wrong one. My bad. Let's change that. Rafinha of Bayern Munich was out with they were with a bunch of the Bayern players, I believe, just celebrating for Halloween, and were dressed up. And he was dressed as like Middle Eastern garb, holding what was a bomb It was a very, very, very. I'm trying to think of the word that's not going to sound too bad.
Politically insensitive.
Let's say it that way. Costume. It was. I'm just going to go to you guys because I'm at a loss for words on this one. But Matt, what did you think of this costume? I think it's just incredibly insensitive.
So the thing for me that I don't understand at this point, like it's happened with players like a couple of times. With Griezmann a couple years ago where he went like blackface for a costume party. I'm not sure if it was Halloween, but
I hope to God it was Halloween, because if he's just going to parties like that, that's a bigger issue.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Fair enough point. But like, I don't understand how nobody on the team doesn't say anything to him before they go out. Like, you're going to get in trouble in like the media backlash for like, political insensitivity, for like making it like look like an Islamic terrorist. It's like, of course, especially being a Bayern Munich player and them being like taking pictures together and posting them, it's like the backlash that's about to happen. How does nobody say anything? And like obviously Rafinha is mainly at fault here for this, but it's like how has nobody else at Bayern said something?
Yeah, I agree. John, what do you think?
I think possibly in a heightened set of players all dressed up and looking at Rafinha walk in that, which is clearly homemade. No one's selling those on the streets of Munich that you can just pick up. The bomb is a sort of cardboard box that he's drawn on with a black pen. I think there's at least half a dozen players who went, no, don't say anything. This will be hilarious. Because it's just, you get groups of players around like that and all of a sudden they lose all perspective to the outside world. And, there's probably one sensible soul saying, no, don't let him, and three hold him back and go, no, this will be hilarious. Because, bunch of footballers together, they can kind of be weird.
Yeah, I agree. Dave, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, they live in this bubble that's not like kind of normal society because they kind of are catered to, especially at the top levels. Like they can get away with doing whatever they want. They're paid very, very well. They're these superstars that people aren't really challenged a ton. And so along those lines, it's just sometimes they don't think from a broader perspective, which is even more weird and interesting in today's time with social media and also with sponsorship and everything. Like players, a lot of players have that wherewithal that, all right, I shouldn't do this just from a personal standpoint. This is terrible, moral, but also from a business standpoint, this might cost me sponsorships and all of that. Like that's the other piece here, in addition to what John has already highlighted.
Aren't they sponsored by Qatar Airways too?
No, you guys are getting them confused with Barcelona. It's Bayern. Bayern's not sponsored by Qatar Airways, are they?
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, who's Bayern sponsored by? I can't think of that off the top of my head.
I can tell you it's not Qatar Airways.
Okay.
Sorry. Follow-up question here. Do you think that this is going to harm Bayern's reputation, and are they going to handle it internally? Anyone can feel free to jump in there.
They'll handle it internally. There'll be the standard kind of press department apology and draft it out. But I don't know. At the same time, the politics of Germany at the moment, the rise of the right in Central Europe. I'm sure there's plenty of people looking quite sympathetically at that kind of, well, let's just say it, racist pastiche of people from the Middle East. There's so much tension in Germany that, as much as I'm sort of laughing before about the camaraderie of the team, it'll be interesting to see what stance the club take, because Central Europe is not a stable place at the moment for politics, and the right's as much there as anywhere else. Is Rafinha Brazilian, or am I getting the Rafinhas mixed up?
I'm pretty sure he's Brazilian, but I know they each represent. Don't they represent two different countries? One represents Spain, and
Rafinha in Barcelona represents. No, he represents Brazil. No, he represents Brazil. Thiago represents Spain, but they're brothers, and it's weird.
So a Brazilian looking to racist movements. That's I'm very on message with all things Brazilian at the moment. So, I just sound very pessimistic. This is just me being very, very English and making fun of the deeply depressing state of European politics.
He is Brazilian, and just to circle back, Bayern sponsored by T-Mobile.
Duh. Obviously,
And
they have that
Thiago.
little T of white shirts that
Yes.
sits in the corner. I
And
forgot.
Thiago is Spanish, so there we go. We've
I did know that.
settled all of our misunderstandings so far.
Yeah, that was a really good little segment that we had there. Everybody was really on point with all this. All right. So similar concept here, but in my opinion, worse, would be what Higuain and Omar El Kadori did, their Napoli players. So they were at an airport, and I just don't understand because they threw a bag on the stairs and ran as a joke, as if they were throwing a bomb, then tweeted about it, saying it was hilarious because everyone was running, including security. How on earth is this allowed? Like, how is this not handled externally, let alone internally? This is incredibly inappropriate and insensitive, in my opinion, and really just almost a terroristic threat. Dave, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so did we verify this story? Because I know the screenshot you sent was just like one person and it had like one tweet. So if this is in fact true, this gets back to these players just like living in this bubble and just not understanding society. And at this point, they're adults. Like we need to stop making excuses for these guys. Like this, like you said, Christian, this could have caused mass sort of hysteria. Yeah, so quick story. My wife's cousin was actually in the airport that had a shooting in Florida. She was there when it happened, and she was okay and everything was fine. But shortly after it, there was a balloon that popped or some sort of loud noise, and it caused mass hysteria like hours later. And what ended up happening, some girl she was there with her swim team, broke her leg as a result of it because there was so much confusion and mayhem and stuff like that. And so things like this that can cause stampedes or cause this mass confusion can lead to serious kind of repercussions. And for them to not realize that is just, it's so inexcusable. If this is a true story, like this is just terrible.
Yeah, and they almost, well, they are celebrities over there, so they think that they can get away with stuff like this, but I don't think it's appropriate. John, I'll go to you next.
It's mind-boggling. It's genuinely mind-boggling that you'd think that was a hilarious joke. I mean, similarly, we had in central London around one of the tube stations, I think earlier this year, there was a false rumor about there being some kind of bomb threat. And, hundreds of people are panicking in the centre. It doesn't take anything at all to do it. And if true, that should be a criminal matter, not just for the clubs to fine them. The clubs need to have a long, hard think about what they want from their team to be presented. But that's criminal if they've done that. So, yeah, astonishing. Absolutely astonishing.
Absolutely agree. Matt, what are your thoughts on here?
I mean, there's not much more to add than you guys already said. I just don't understand how they don't realize the stupidity of their actions or what could be the consequences of them. It's just, I don't understand it. Especially Higuain. What is he? He's almost 30 now. He probably is.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so it's it's just, I can't believe he's doing things that probably stop being funny when you turn 13. Or not even funny, but just something someone like an immature child would do or teenager.
Yeah. So I actually looked up this story while we've been talking. This is from December of 2017. So this occurred a while ago.
Well, yeah, it says Napoli. So I mean,
he's on Milan.
Yeah, he's on Milan now, and he was at Juventus.
Okay,
so it might be an older story that happened.
Yeah, it is, apparently.
Regardless, it needed to be addressed, and I don't know how this wasn't dealt with then. Because that's a long time for almost a threatening situation. But yeah, okay. I'm glad we brought it up anyway because I did want to discuss it.
No, I agree.
And I think it's so irresponsible of these players to just act the way that they do sometimes. But whatever. We can move along unless anyone else has any thoughts on this.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'd only say there was a thing with Keita Balde, I think maybe 2 seasons ago, where as a joke, he sort of came out with another player around a swimming pool who came out as gay, but it was a joke. And they thought that was hilarious. They sort of pre-season, they did a big thing with kind of photos of them sort of holding each other and hearts. And then next day, oh no, it's just a joke. We thought it'd be hilarious. So there's no end of ludicrous stuff to come from footballers who've got time in their hands. I think that's clear.
I don't even understand. I can't even follow the logic behind that.
Yeah, no, there's no one there to tell them that's not funny, I guess. But bloody hell.
Guess. Yeah. But they just find it hilarious, I guess. Yeah, all right. Well, that was a good little side note there. And we learn something new every day. Right. I have one more topic. I honestly don't know if you discussed it last week, but I'm going to bring it up anyway.
Okay.
Because I wasn't here to discuss it.
All right, you and John, yeah.
So, Real Madrid lost their coach. Did you guys discuss that last week at all?
Yes.
Okay. Did you talk about possible new ones?
Not really. We just kind of assumed Solari was going to be appointed, but I know he's interim.
Yeah, he is interim. I really, really think Pochettino is going to take over in this summer. I think that they will bring him in. Do you guys agree, disagree, have someone else you really think that should be taking over? John, I'll start with you.
I think Pochettino is a very interesting shout for them. It would make sense, his sort of vaguely anti-Barca stance that he's taken kind of throughout his career and talking about his links with Espanyol. That's a fairly easy sell to the fans. He's done incredible things at Spurs, but maybe there's a momentum issue with Spurs at the moment and a change is due. They are kind of struggling, though. Where else they're going to look around? They either have to appoint another young coach or else go back and trot old ground with either somebody they've had before or one of the old guards. So it's a bit of an interesting turning point for them. With Lopetegui, it made so much sense. You know, they bought so many Spanish young players. They had a Spanish coach used to working with Spanish youngsters. And I don't quite get why they panicked so early with it, but I think they've got to go young again, given the number of young players in that squad.
Yeah, I agree. Matt, what do you think?
I think Pochettino is a good shout. I mean, from like what he said in the media in like recent weeks, it seems like he's not meant for Tottenham, you know, maybe long term. And I think he might be a little frustrated with, you know, not winning trophies and every week having to answer about, you know, lack of trophies. And I think him for his career would make a lot of sense to go to Real Madrid, and you know, it's a step up for sure.
Yeah, Dave, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this makes the most sense. I know he played at Espanyol and is sworn off going to Barca, so this would, you know, make sense to fit in with all of that. I think, you know, we've talked about Spurs. We talked about Spurs last week and how just their whole stadium situation is throwing things off. There's a limited window that they have left with their current squad, unless they're going to seriously change things, which I don't see how they possibly could, just given the debts that they're having to take on. And so this would make a natural move for him to take that next step up the ladder. And, you know, I could definitely see it happening. And he's a fantastic, you know, manager. He's proven it pretty much wherever he's been. And so I think this would be a good hiring for Real Madrid, and this would be good for Poch's career.
Yeah, I think that this would be devastating for Tottenham, though, if they were to lose him now, especially with the new stadium. You don't really know how much financially they're able to invest. And if he leaves, who's to say Eriksen, Alderweireld still not signed a new contract? You got Kane, who might leave with him to go to Real Madrid. You don't know what's going to happen. And I think it could be devastating, and Tottenham could really, really struggle for a while if he was to leave.
Yeah, and so we have a couple comments here from people watching on YouTube. So Simon's chiming in that he thinks Jurgen Klopp would get the manager position at Real Madrid. I know that I think, sought him out, and he declined it previously. And then he says that he doesn't understand why Poch would want to go to Real Madrid, which, I mean, I think he's kind of bringing up, like, why would you want to go into that situation with Florentino Perez and all of that? I mean, you know, from that perspective, I mean, it is a really good point. I don't know if I necessarily would want to deal with that, you know, figure just kind of pushing down onto me. Thoughts?
Well, I
Matt?
think, like, Tottenham right now, he's losing I mean, a lot of his freedom with not being able to, you know, sign players. And I think if he goes to Real Madrid. It's just the quality and the opportunity he'll have at Real Madrid is something he'll never have at Tottenham. That's just my thought.
Yeah, fair enough. Christian, you want to go take back over here, or do you have thoughts?
Yeah, sure. No, I think you guys.
John, any thoughts?
Pretty well.
Oh, I do see the point. Why would you want to go? I mean, it's a step up from almost anywhere now to go to Real. The status is that much higher, but he's an intelligent man, is Pochettino, and I'm sure he'd weigh it in terms of he's not just going to be seduced by the bright lights. He knows he's got a lot of goodwill with the players and the squad at Tottenham, the squad and the fans at Tottenham. I don't think he'd necessarily bite the hand off if the offer wasn't great, but yeah, it's I don't know. I see a domino though. If it goes, I think Eddie Howe to Spurs.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
A good choice. Yeah. Was Bale and Modric playing for Tottenham when Pochettino was there? I can't even remember.
I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
Okay. May have been late on, or maybe they left the summer he came in. It's really close. So
yeah, it's close. Really I don't think Modric was there. Bale may have been there.
Yeah. Bale was there one more year. Is that it?
I think so.
Or was he there too? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was just checking. So I think that's all I have for my section here in Christian's Corner. I have another topic, but we'll save that for another day. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Here comes some music, and I hope you enjoy it before Dave comes back with some more.
All right, good stuff. So we're joined by a couple of people here. Simon saying he suppose he'll be used to Real Madrid because of the white kits. That's a good one. And then we're also joined by Matthew, who is a Bournemouth fan, and he said Howe is going.
Did not like that.
Yeah, he did not like the Howe comment. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I mean, Howe seems to make the most sense. I don't know unless Spurs want to go after, I don't know, a really big name. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. Conte, like I don't know.
I doubt it.
This person's still here. Who's US gonna hire?
It seems Eddie to be Berhalter. No, it seems to be Greg Berhalter on the US front. They're just waiting for him to get out of the playoffs, but they keep winning. John, I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, it's interesting. Howe's a boyhood Everton fan. So interesting. Apparently, he wasn't in contention for the Everton job when Silva got it. So that's a curious one. I just wonder if Spurs is the next club he could possibly get in the league. I don't think anyone else would take the chance. And
Good points. So we'll see, Matthew. I mean, Bournemouth's been killing it. So I'm sure you're flying high, and so he's done some fantastic work with them. So that is awesome. Let me give a quick plug for another partner before we welcome it back. What's going on, everyone? Dave here again to give you another partner announcement. FNX.network. FNX.network is a website that has stories and podcasts about all different kinds of info: sports, entertainment, video games, lifestyle, and tech, and more. They also have our stuff, Bros Talking Soccer, as well as all different kinds of other content. You want to go check them out at fnx.network. All right, cool. John, do you want to welcome people back? Do you want me to welcome back and then kick it over to you to talk IFAB?
I can do the welcome. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So timer started whenever you're good to welcome people back.
Thanks for that, Dave. We are back, and I'm taking over for a small section of the podcast after a very kind invitation from the Bros Talking Soccer. I am going to go with what is, to me, fascinating, but to the rest of the world, perhaps Byzantinely dull, because on Monday, it's the IFAB board meeting. And for people who don't know, IFAB is the independent body that sets the laws of football. They are the International Football Federation Board, and they get to decide what the rules are. And their meeting on Monday has prompted a few little stories in the press. The press seems to have latched onto a couple of things. The possibility of a proposal to remove the word deliberately from the handball law, and a proposal that is in place to make penalties a single action. So when the penalty's taken or saved or missed, that's it. Play stops. No rebounds. It's either a goal or it's a goal kick. So just to kick off a bit on IFAB and maybe those two particular rules, I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts on either of those.
Who wants to go first?
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Okay. I actually kind of like the handball rule, especially because of how confusing it's got. Where deliberate and natural position are both, I'm pretty sure, in the definition right now, which doesn't really make any sense because if you're not deliberately handballing, if it's not in a natural position, it makes no sense. So I think removing that from the definition is just going to make it much easier because I think if your arm's just out and it hits it, it should still be a handball. I just think it makes the game so much easier and just a clear definition of what a handball is. I actually kind of like that one. I'm not sure how I feel about the penalty rule. I feel like it should be back in open play because I just don't like stoppages in soccer where it's like a whole set play that you can't, that doesn't start like a run of play. I think it works perfectly where it's a stoppage and then right into a run of play if you miss. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Christian?
The handball rule, I'm not getting on board with. I think that you can't control where your arms are sometimes. Your momentum is going to move your body, and I just can't get on board with it being a foul anytime the ball hits your hand. It's just, that's a crazy thing to me. Penalties, I am perfectly fine with how it is currently. I don't think that they should change that. But as somebody who plays goalie, I feel like that would be great because you're just like, oh, I saved it, so now I don't have to worry about what's happening next. But I don't. As a soccer player and a soccer fan, I really don't like changing that. I think that it should be a live ball as soon as it's saved. It is in open play, and that's just the way that it has always been, and it makes sense that the ball is live as soon as it's been touched by another player.
I actually like both these proposals. I think it would take away a lot. The handball rule specifically would take away a lot of the confusion that happens. If it hits a hand, I mean, you call it. And so defenders will have to learn, how to defend differently, hands behind their back or all of that. So I think that would be good to just have that clarity. Whereas, it seems like every other match, there seems to be a controversial handball call, not called, thing. So I like the idea behind it. I mean, who knows if, who knows how it'll be executed. So that's my only concern. And then the other one, the penalty, I mean, so often I like that the ball isn't back in play because a goalkeeper makes a save or a guy, finishes the shot. But when the goalkeeper makes a save, I mean, it can be such like a high, and then the ball bounces back to the guy, and then he taps it in. I don't know. It never felt right to me that can happen. So I kind of like this, and with there being more stoppages, there's already like the penalty is already a major stoppage. So getting the ball back into play after it's saved, I don't think would add too much additional time to the play already happening. So for me, I'm actually on board with both these changes.
I don't know. You wouldn't get one of those crazy moments like you did with the championship playoff game between Leicester and Watford a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
so
that
you
was
never know
wild.
what's going to happen. Like, if it's back in play, it could be a counter going the other way too. So I think it's just a live ball.
But they can get the ball back into play quickly. Like the same thing can kind of happen, right? If they wanted to.
I mean, not really. I mean, kind of, but not exactly. It's like a free kick where somebody will stand in front of the ball just so you can't go quickly.
Yeah, and if it's dead, then you wouldn't line up along the edge of the box for it. You'd get back in position.
That's a good point.
And that seems to be, oddly, one of the reasons they've suggested it, is that it would stop encroachment, which seems an odd... If you're going to do it, kind of for fairness to the keeper, I guess makes more sense. But I guess I don't really mind either way on that one. The handball thing, I'm wondering if that's a bit of a sort of journalistic red herring because all the articles that mention it were talking about it's possibly up for discussion. And IFAB publishes agendas months in advance, and they've got a whole slate of things up for possible changes to the laws, and that's not been any of the agendas. So it may just be that it's the penalty thing to come anyway. I don't think I like deliberate handball being removed. I think I quite like the idea of you having to have some controversy in a game. But I suppose it takes us to, has anybody got any rules that they would like to see changed? If you were the person proposing, is there anything to change that you'd take?
Matt?
I'm trying to think. I don't know if any rule changes. I think mainly just like implementing VAR in a lot of leagues that don't have it already. I think that would just be the main change. to like the run of play.
Christian?
I'm thinking one, but I don't know how it's going to be well received, but it's going to happen anyway. So here it is. I'm thinking possibly a rule like I have a game today in a cup competition. So we have changed rules with the team that I play on. Maybe with substitutes, you could actually use everyone on your bench if you wanted to, but there's no re-entry, so that you could have up to the amount of players on your bench. But I know that could change the game completely, and it would be a little bit crazy to see how that is implemented. And maybe coaches only use 3 in a day, but I think being able to use your entire bench if it's necessary, just because of injuries, or maybe change the rule that if someone's injured, you can bring on somebody from your bench to change the game, because playing down a man late in a game, in a close game, that's not really fair if someone got injured. And I understand it's part of the game, but I feel like you should be able to bring somebody on in that situation, because it's incidental and it's not really part of the game. And there are times where, okay, you're down 1-0. And I know this isn't going to sound good, but somebody might actually come in with the intent to injure that person, and just because they know they'll have a man advantage at that time and they have no subs left. And you see that at times. So I don't know. I think that being able to use the bench more would be an interesting rule.
So the only one I would kind of tag on to that is the concussion kind of stuff that's happening right now, where players are getting put back into matches, or there's just this pressure on that whole situation when someone gets a head injury to get them evaluated as quickly as possible. And it's kind of been proven that it can take, 10, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes more, to properly evaluate someone for concussion. So if you had sort of like an interim sub where you wouldn't have that pressure, people could be legitimately evaluated, and then they could potentially re-enter the game if they're cleared, or just the sub would continue. So that might be the only other rule change that I would propose.
Yeah, no, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's great. I would love to see an independent head injury assessment as well. So it's just like the league provides you with some refs, it provides you with a head injury doctor. So there's no pressure on a club doctor to put somebody back in a game that's not able to. And I'd go a bit further as well and allow independent doctors straight on the pitch without play stopping. When have you ever seen play run into an injured player, ever? What difference does it make if there's 2 doctors who've come on a discrete part of the pitch and are looking straight after what the problem is? So that'd be one for me. But yeah, sorry, I cut across you.
Oh, that's right. I was just going to change mine a little bit, not use the whole bench, but have 3 tactical subs the way they do now. But if somebody does get injured, you can make a substitution, but maybe that person can't play in the next game or something. So to just discourage people from play acting just for substitutes late in the game.
Yeah, it's true. We had a case in rugby in England a few years back where you have blood substitutions. You have a blood injury, and the doctor had given a blood capsule to one of the players who burst it in his mouth so he could come off. Except they seemed to not realise there were cameras everywhere, and you could kind of see it if you looked carefully. Wow. I like the idea that they're not being allowed to play, but IFAB have got a hell of a lot of ideas of how to change it, though, and they've gone from being quite conservative. They've put together something called Play Fair, which is an attempt to do 3 things to the laws of the game. It's to improve player behaviour, increase the playing time, so the amount of time the ball's in play, and increase the fairness and attractiveness of the game. And there are some absolutely fundamental changes to the game that they are genuinely considering. To pick a few of the highlights, a self-passing free kick and corner. So as soon as you win a free kick, you can run off with the ball, you can dribble it away, you can dribble it from a corner. And the other really big one is when it comes to playing time, 2 30-minute halves with a clock that stops every time the ball's out of play are both as in this stages of being considered by IFAB, and they may be in place by 2020. What do you think of those?
I like the dribble in one. I think it would add such a really interesting, unique element to the game where you already kind of see it. People that, you know, kind of have their wits about them and can play quick free kicks sometimes can get an advantage. And with this, that would just add an additional level on top of that. So people just need to be locked in all of the time. So it would add a really interesting sort of different dynamic that, you know, I think would be interesting.
Can't moan to the ref as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of teams or a lot of people practice like that too, where it's not like a free kick in practice. Like when you're training, you pretty much just go on with the ball anyway after a foul. So it's I feel like it's not too big of a change from how you train, and it would, like you said, protect the refs for after a foul, not 6 people swarming the ref, and you kind of just play on.
I want to start by saying I hate the 30-minute thing. I don't want them to implement that in any way. That's ridiculous. But the dribble in one is really interesting. I'm very excited to see if they implement that, because that really does, like Dave said, create a different dynamic to the game. And you have to defend a whole new set of tactical free kicks or technical free kicks that we've never seen before. And maybe even throw-ins could be kick-ins. Who knows what they're going to change in the future.
We had the throw-ins as kick-in things in the 90s in non-league football in England. And it was awful because the standard was low anyway in those leagues. And everything became a hoofed long ball. So it's 80, 90-yard hoofs into the box. And I personally hate the idea of the 30-minute halves. And I agree with you. I love the dribbling. I did the dribbling football when I first heard it. But you couldn't winch to the ref. You couldn't throw your arms in the air and you just have to get on with it. I think it would make a great spectacle for it. But both are just up for discussion at the moment. They have ready to implement, ready to test, and up for discussion. So those two are just up for discussion as things stand.
Interesting.
And I won't bore you with the 31 other possible proposals, including forced handshakes before a game. Does not need any further discussion from any of us. So I think that's probably it for my section now, and I'll throw back to Dave.
All right, cool. There were a couple things that I wanted to talk about, but we've had actually a decent amount of people in the YouTube chat, and we've had a lot of questions. So I'm going to cut my section here. Before we get to all those, I wanted to give a quick plug for another YouTube channel that I have, the Soccer Tavern. It is a channel making videos about the history, culture, and philosophy of the beautiful game. We have club history videos for the 20 teams in the English Premier League. We have the history of the sport of soccer and how it was created, terminology videos, why is it called a pitch, why is it called a nutmeg, and all of that. Please go check out the Soccer Tavern over on YouTube. Before we get to the listener questions here, we've had some interesting things kind of happening in the chat, but just wanted to shout out Matthew and his dog that was named after Harry Archer. He lost the dog, and we're really sorry to hear that. So just shout out Matt and all of that. First question from the chat that we didn't get to was from Simon, who talked about Christian Eriksen going to FC Barcelona. Christian, I know you're a Barca fan. What would you think of that move happening?
I'm surprised that move hasn't happened already. He seems to fit that mold perfectly. He's a very Iniesta type of player, maybe a little bit. I mean, obviously he's a step down, but he's very, very, very good. I really like him as a player, and I'm shocked he's still at Tottenham, to be completely honest with you.
John, anything else to add there?
No, completely agree. He's such a good player.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, that probably would be a good step up for him in his career, and I think he deserves it, so it makes sense.
Awesome. Next question comes to us from Billy Wendell. Would Dele go to Liverpool if Poch leaves Tottenham? Matt, thoughts?
For me, I don't think so, because of Liverpool's kind of depth at the moment. I don't think Liverpool necessarily needs him, and him being an English young player, he's going to be ridiculously overpriced in the Premier League. So I just don't see it happening. I don't think Liverpool is going to invest that. But, I mean, if Poch does leave, I could see him moving somewhere. I just don't think Liverpool is really that destination. So
to tag on to that, sorry, John, any thoughts there?
Just to insulate myself from all the Tottenham hate that's coming your way, I think that's a step down for him.
All right. Christian, thoughts?
What?
Christian's a Liverpool fan, so he's not going to take well to that, John.
Well, one, no. No, I don't think he'll come to Liverpool, even though he is a Liverpool fan, and he was dreaming of going to play with Gerrard, who was asleep on the day he was supposed to sign, so he signed with Tottenham instead. But I think that it's going to be he does move on eventually. I don't really rate him that highly, to be completely honest with you, but I think he can move up from Tottenham. I guess I think that's probably the place for him, though, in the long run.
So to tag onto that, Matthew had a question. If Poch does go to Real Madrid, do you think Kane and Dele would follow him there? John?
Kane would be interesting. Bear in mind, I've got to walk past an awful lot of Tottenham fans back through London, so you guys are insulated. I'm turn out for my team next week, but I think it's a big season for Spurs in a lot of ways, and I think Kane and Eriksen are perhaps the two that would stand out to other clubs. Although I think maybe, fair or not, Kane's injury record might just put a few people off, or certainly put them off paying the kind of prices that it would take to get him out of Spurs. So I can't really see him going, to be honest.
Christian?
I could see Kane and Eriksen leaving, and I also think Toby will leave at the end of the year. I rate him very highly. I think he's one of the best center backs in the league.
Matt?
I could see Kane leaving, especially if Poch goes. I think that's the only way he does leave, though. I think if the team's staying together, I think Kane's gonna stick with Tottenham.
Okay. Last question from YouTube. Christian Eriksen to Bayern. I know we talked about him going to FC Barcelona. Do you think he would fit in there? Just real quick, Christian.
I think he can fit in there. Yeah, I think he's a very, very good player, and he could play in any team. But I think Barcelona makes more sense with the strength and depth in the midfield right now. Though I do believe Bayern really needs a changing of the guard and bring in a new class of players.
John?
If there was a changing of the guard and if the system changed a bit, I think Eriksen could play most systems, but maybe Bayern doesn't quite the place where you could make the most of him. So looking at James' kind of experience there, I know they're not the same, but there's enough similarity there that would give me pause if I was Eriksen thinking about Bayern.
Matt?
Yeah, I would agree. I think right now, James and Thiago are somewhat similar players to Eriksen, so maybe that's not the perfect place for him. But I mean, a club like Bayern is definitely like Bayern, Barcelona, the elite. I feel like is the only option for him at this point to go to a definite move up.
All right. So our questions from Twitter at It's a Todd Life. This first one comes from at It's a Todd Life. I don't know why I said it that way. Please give your thoughts on the elite Super League kind of thing. We talked about that kind of, went in with the football leagues discussions. And so this would be a breakaway of basically the biggest teams in England, Spain, Germany, Italy, and France, as well as I think one team from, either Turkey, Netherlands, or one of those other ones. John, your thoughts on breakaway Super League?
The format that was in the WikiLeaks is genuinely evil. To have the idea of founder clubs who invite 5 bits of cannon fodder into their league who could be replaced at any time, it's appalling. And I can't imagine who it's for other than the wet dreams of financial people at those clubs looking at TV rights. They want the Premier League's rights. They want the Champions League rights. What better way to get them to do this? If it happened, and bear in mind, I think it happened. I think the story predates the changes to the Champions League that guaranteed spots for the top leagues. I think maybe that could have been a response. But if this happened, it would be an absolute sham, and it would destroy European football. Well, European football would have to start all over again. I can't. The number of things that are wrong with it is unbelievable. It would destroy transfers. It would destroy contracts. I don't understand how any club could be so short-sighted as to take 10 years of TV money for the potential future of their entire club's existence. I think it's that serious.
Christian,
follow that.
Oh, sorry, John. Sorry, continue.
So I was just saying, follow that.
Okay, I will. So I absolutely agree. I think it's a ridiculous thing to implement. I know a lot of people are excited about the possibilities of, every week is like a top 6 battle in England. Like that's how a lot of people would see it. Or, oh my God, every week's like a Champions League semifinal. But no, It wouldn't be. It would lose its sparkle. The reason why those games are so important is because they don't happen so often. And I think it would just ruin all of European leagues. It makes no sense because it just breaks everything down. And like he said, you have to start from scratch again.
Yeah, and in music, the rests are sometimes just as important as the beats. So along those lines, the matches that aren't, the big clubs competing against, build up to those things. And so along those lines, Christian, you're right. Matt, thoughts here?
Well, in theory, I mean, it makes perfect sense having the best teams play against each other, but that's pretty much what the Champions League is right now. And if you want to see more of that, I think the most logical, step up would be to expand the Champions League a little bit to play more games. But other than that, like the way this would be set up would be it would completely destroy the traditional league tables and league setup. So I think it would that would probably be the only option that I would somewhat be behind.
Yeah, and it's so short-sighted, and too much of a good thing is not always the right answer. And so we all love the Champions League. We love these teams playing against each other because it doesn't happen every week. And I am just not against this. And John, just to your point, the Spiegel article that we'll link to, it was very long, and I'm going to admit I didn't read all of it. But a lot of these meetings were from 2016, but it did seem like there were a couple more recent meetings. I could have that wrong, but I don't think this is like dying and going away. So I think they're going to continue looking at all of this, which really makes me nervous and worried for the future of soccer. Let John, something else to add?
No, just that I think it would be naive to think if they've had the discussions that they would just stop. And very worrying.
Last question.
It's time for MLS to rise.
Well, MLS is a closed league, and so basically what they're talking about creating is kind of what MLS is built on. And we're having kind of the opposite discussion in this country. How do we open up the pyramid more to get we have all these clubs sort of building up, and so it's interesting sort of dichotomy happening. Matt?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, I mean, basically all our other sports are set up like this Super League, and kind of how the MLS is set up, but it's not kind of panning out that way. Whereas like all other American sports is the best teams kind of in the world at that sport playing against each other every week. So I think maybe that's why, and like our TV success with most of our sports, maybe that's why it's being talked about.
Yeah, but there's also I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too far, but that is the way our sports are set up here. All right, last question from at Soccer Noob USA. This is going to be an odd one, which is on brand for Soccer Noob. Who is the more talented footballer, Hulk, Mexican Antonio Hulk Salazar, who plays for Sonora of Ascencio MX, which is the second division in Mexico, or the Brazilian Hulk who plays over in China? I think this is a pretty easy question. I think Brazilian Hulk is better, but John, any thoughts here? I know it's a weird question.
I thought I was here for my in-depth knowledge of lower league Mexican football. So I do not know the Mexican one. I do think the Brazilian Hulk is massively overrated. I really don't get Brazilian Hulk, and hey, let's give some spice into that. I think China's probably the right place for him.
Matt, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and assume the Brazilian one's better, but I have not actually heard. Like, I would kind of agree that Brazilian Hulk is overrated. I can't believe he kept his starting place in the Brazil national team for the duration he was. I thought like Willian was always better. Douglas Costa coming up, I thought they were much better than he was, but. I mean, I still assume he's better than the Mexican Hulk.
Christian, any thoughts here?
I mean, I really can't make a logical claim, but there's only one Hulk that I know, and it is the Brazilian one, so I guess I have to pick him for now, but now I have to dive in and look up some videos.
There you go. So hopefully, Soccer Noob, that entertains you and answers your question. Christian, can you recap our trivia question? We'll give our guesses.
I would love to recap the trivia question. Welcome to the third and final installment of Christian's Corner here. It's just another corner. I mean, it's like a triangle here. It's right in the beginning, in the middle, and right at the end. So
all right, get to the
finishing
question.
it up. All right. So the question is, Which team in Premier League history, 92 to current, has the least points ever?
So I think John might have an advantage because so I want us to go first because I don't want to use you as like a guide. So Matt, you want to give your first guess?
I'm gonna say Blackpool.
Oh, that's
good
a good
guess.
one. I know this isn't going to be right, but I know the Derby County squad had the lowest points in one season, but I feel like they've been in the Prem other times, but I'm still going to say Derby County.
Okay.
John?
I'm not going to say good guess on that one.
I am going to storm off in a massive huff if it's not Swindon Town.
Christian?
It is Swindon Town.
See, I'm glad John went last there. But listeners,
Swindon Town, they have 30 points in their one season, and Cardiff were actually second least until this season.
All right, great trivia question there, listeners. Hopefully, you did better than I did because I'm embarrassed by my guess.
Yeah, I just want to give Matt a shout out really quick. Sorry, Matt, you were 9 points off. You were very close.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Very good.
All right, cool. So, listeners, thank you so much for being here. Everybody who chimed in on YouTube, we had some great discussion. I want to apologize again for the one user that I had to keep blocking. So sorry about that. Listeners of the podcast, we record this thing live on YouTube, so feel free to join and chime in. You know, we had some great discussion kind of happening today. If you like what we're doing here, please consider leaving us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to the podcast. That would mean a lot and really, really helps us out. In addition to all of that, we are currently selling long sleeve t-shirts. They're only available till November 8th. So you only have a couple more days to get them. We're going to donate $3 for every shirt sold to a soccer charity. I'm thinking Love.Football right now. And so we're going to do this every quarter. We're going to sell some merchandise and donate some funds from the merchandise sales to a charitable cause related to soccer. So, you know, it'd be awesome to help us out and help out a charity. Those shirt sales are linked in the podcast show notes and video description if you want to check it out. If you want to get in contact with us, our Twitter's at BT Soccer Pod. Our email is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. And check out our website, brostalkingsoccerpodcast.com. You can read about us, check out past episodes, and visit our store link. You can buy the shirts there. And you can also support the podcast if you're buying anything on Amazon. You just click the link on our store page. Whatever you end up buying, no additional cost to you, just, you know, a couple additional steps, and we get a small percentage of that, which helps kind of support the show and everything we're doing here. John, thank you so much for being here. Can you remind people of the Game of Football podcast and where they can find you?
You find the podcast all the usual places. We're on SoundCloud. You can find us on iTunes. And we're on Twitter at the Game of Footy.
Awesome. So definitely go check it out. And that is all linked in the podcast show notes and video description. So be sure to go check it out. John's doing some awesome things. Matt, thank you for being here.
Thank you, David.
Christian, thanks for being here.
Pleasure as always.
All right, listeners, thank you so much. We will talk to you next week. See you, everybody. All right. Anyone who's watching live on YouTube, really sorry about that one user that kept joining and I kept having to delete. And Matthew, if you're still here, sorry about your dog and him bringing all of that stuff up. So, guys, I'll explain to you after we go, after I stop the broadcast. But, you know, we had 11 viewers at one point, which is our most ever watched. So thank you all for being here, and we really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next week. See you, everybody.